This segment is about serving on a site visit team, chairing a site visit team, how to get ready for a site visit, the do's and don'ts of serving on a site visit team. Feel free to pause this video at any time, look more closely at one of the slides. More significantly, download the slides because they come with notes that have more detail and that might be valuable for you. In any case, you should attend the Accreditation Institute at one of NASPAA's annual meetings because you'll get additional training there on being a site visitor. And you also want to see what programs are being told and how they're being trained to respond to their requests for self-study reports, completing self-study reports, and seeking accreditation. Here's the most important principle about being on a site visit team. As a site visit team member, you are the eyes and ears of COPRA. You're reporting to COPRA. You are not recommending for or against accreditation. COPRA's model of accreditation is different than those of other accrediting institutions. In COPRA's view of the world, you are really more investigators. You're reporting on what you see, what you hear. That's the key thing. You're more like an investigator. You're focusing on the program's mission, its processes, and outcomes. What are you learning about how it works? You're validating, if you will, their story. You're focusing on how they make decisions, the who, what, where, when, and how. And you're focusing on collecting evidence that you can send back to COPRA and say, this is what is going on. You're not making a judgment about whether a program is in compliance or is not in compliance. So that's a very important principle of serving on a site visit team. So in terms of being ready, what does it mean to be ready for serving on a site visit team? Well, it's not about you're in a mood to go out and screen out bad programs. The philosophy of COPRA's accreditation is to say, yes, there are guidelines and standards. There are instances where programs are not in compliance and may not gain accreditation. But the whole philosophy is about helping programs improve and help the profession improve. Now, in terms of being ready, you have to want to contribute to the profession in general and help other programs improve and learn from other programs by being on a site visit and being open to how other programs do things differently, and maybe you can take that back to your own program. Now, every site visit team is going to have typically 2 academics and 1 practicing professional, someone in the field who has a lot of experience. Every site visit team typically has that complexion of 3 people, and one of the academics typically will be the chair. There's a significant commitment here. Between travel and being on site, you're going to be gone for 3 or 4 days away from your workplace. And you're, in addition, going to commit a lot of time to preparing. You're going to have a lot of documents to review and to analyze, so you're ready to go when you land on site and start the site visit. You have to have the time. You have to have your organization's commitment and support for this as a professional activity. Your organization ought to acknowledge that you're going to learn things and bring them back to your workplace, whether you're a professional or an academic, about what's going on, and that has value for the organization. And furthermore, in terms of international site visits, well, the self-study reports will be in English. It's possible some of the interviews and meetings will be in the native language of the program. So what does that mean for a site visitor? It doesn't require that every site visitor be fluent in the language or know the language of the country that they're going to. But it certainly requires that everyone have a certain degree of cultural competency, and ideally that you have a working knowledge of the higher education system in that program's country. So getting ready, well, you're going to do a lot of reading. You certainly start by doing a site visitor training, and then when you're assigned to a site visit and you're asked to be on a site visit team and you agree to do that, well, you're going to read COPRA's policies and procedures. You want to be at least conversant with those. You're going to read the guide to site visitors. Then you're going to read the program's application for eligibility and COPRA's response to that. Then you're going to read the self-study report, which could be fairly long and detailed. Then you're going to read COPRA's response to the site visit report, its interim report, which typically is considerably shorter, but it raises fundamental and substantive issues, and you've got to understand those. Then you're going to have to read the program's response to COPRA's interim report and make sense out of that. And you're going to review the program's materials that they send you. They may send you print materials, or at the very least, you're going to want to spend some time on their website looking at what they say, look at the claims they're making, looking at what they say they do, because at the end of the day, you're going to determine whether they're doing and living up to their processes and the claims they're making. You're probably going to want to participate in, if not certainly emails, but probably a conference call with the site visit chair as you organize yourselves before you arrive at the site. Maybe you wait until you get there the first hour or two on site to organize yourself. Typically, it's better to sort of be organized in advance. And as you read all these documents, you're going to want to show up on site with a list of perhaps open-ended questions that you're prepared to ask. So you want to be really prepared and very professional. You're representing, in a sense, the profession and COPRA in particular. So you want to be pretty professional about it. Well, a couple of slides talk about the do's and don'ts. Certainly if there's a perceived conflict of interest between you and the program, you want to reveal that, and ideally you wouldn't be on a site visit team. COPRA tries to screen that out. Probably most important is listen more than talk. It goes to your role as the eyes and ears of COPRA. Be prepared with questions, figure out how you're going to take notes, either handwritten or on a tablet or however you want to do it, because you're going to absorb a great deal of information in a short period of time. You're going to have to remember what happened to write your report or your section of the report that goes to COPRA. And that's a key thing. You are writing a comprehensive report in response in particular to the issues that are raised by COPRA in the interim report. So you are looking at the program's operations with respect to all 7 standards. But the interim reports often focus on a subset of those, and those are ones that you have to give particular attention to. Be sure you understand the issues raised in the interim report and you have any questions about it, get clarification from the member of COPRA who's been assigned to be the liaison to each program. Now, a key point here also is you want to provide evidence to COPRA. COPRA is the decision maker. It isn't enough to say, for example, well, COPRA raised this issue in the interim report, but we've talked to the faculty and the staff, it's not a problem. Period, end of report. That doesn't give COPRA what COPRA needs to determine whether something is a problem. If you heard something, if you saw something that led you to believe it's not a problem, you report the evidence, not necessarily your conclusion. So evidence is a key part of all of this. Now, don'ts. What are things you don't do? Well, you're not playing gotcha, if you will, in this. You're not looking for smoking guns. You're not looking to sort of discredit programs. So you're going in there with an open mind and as the eyes and ears of COPRA being ready to report to COPRA. So if a program asks for advice, you can give it advice, but the program should initiate. Basically, you're listening more than talking. So don't tell a program what it should do. Don't specifically, with like say, for example, you should be visiting colleges with large minority populations to recruit students. Well, you don't know how consistent that is with the program's mission. You don't know the program's context necessarily, although you've been reading about it. You don't want to give advice that the program feels like, oh, well, if we do this, then we're going to be accredited. Remember that all programs, even the strongest programs that have wonderful reputations, and anyone would normally say, this is a very strong program and ought to be accredited. I mean, all programs are nervous when site visit teams show up. You may not have the decision-making authority to recommend for or against accreditation, but you are the conduit for information back to COPRA. Everyone knows that the program's going to put its best foot forward. You should expect that. But yet doesn't mean you can't ask probing questions and trying to dig into some, take deeper dives into some issues and so on. But at no point should you take the position of, well, at my program, we do something this way, you should do it that way. Your program might have a different mission in a different context. So you have to be very careful of offering advice. You shouldn't unless you're asked. And when you do, give advice in a fairly nuanced and careful way. So if a program were to ask you to help it reflect on ways to reach out to minorities, as an example, you could say, well, you might consider looking at organizations in your area who tend to employ minorities as a source of, say, more minorities in an in-service program. So it's okay to say you should have a diversity plan because that is a requirement. I mean, COPRA states that's a requirement. You're just stating the fact, restating the facts. Anything that you say, any evidence you provide, ought to be linked to a standard. So when you think about what you put in a report, always think as you're writing it, is this linked, am I reporting something that's linked to a standard? You're going to learn a lot about a program, but not everything you learn directly connects to any particular standard. If it doesn't, it shouldn't be in your report. So, the chair, what does the chair do? Chairs have particularly specific and significant responsibilities. I mean, one is the chair is the leader of the team. The chair organizes the site visit. The chair works with whoever the person is designated to be the host where the site visit is going to occur to set up the schedule. And the chair speaks for the site visit team. All the members of the team should realize that the chair is the spokesperson for the team and should be the main conduit for that communication. The chair is also technically the liaison between the team and COPRA's liaison to the program. So if the chair or the members of the team have a question about the program, it's the chair who typically will call COPRA, the member of COPRA who's assigned to sort of be assigned to that program, and ask for clarification. The chair will also initially start the email chain among the members of the team to organize you. The chair may host a conference call. Chairs may say, well, you know, we're all looking at everything, but let's divide up the work from the interim report. Chairs can choose to organize any way they want, but they should organize. So you may find that you have a particular responsibility to ask questions about and then report on certain standards, and one of your team members will be reporting on some other standards, but the site visit team report is a collective report. So there shouldn't be anything in there that you disagree with. You should be willing to accept anything that's in that report, and the chair helps organize the way you draft the report and put it together. Chairs should be available before, during, and after the visit. It's not unheard of that during its spring meeting when COPRA is reviewing all of the site visit team reports, that occasionally a site visit team chair will get a call from a member of COPRA which is trying to make the best decision and has a question that's come up in the process of reviewing all these documents. So there's a time commitment there. So chairs are very important. This is just not only about accreditation as a site visit team member or chair. This is about improving public service.